So this is part 3 on a series of a series I'm doing on the pentatonic scale. Essentially, we're convincing ourselves that there's only one pentatonic pattern. Essentially, there's only 5 notes, so there's only one pattern, and that's the pattern that we learn. That's the first pattern. It's the most simple pattern. It's got this nice K shape that we're pretty familiar with, and we know it. And if you're watching this video, you probably didn't bother to learn about all the other pentatonic positions because, frankly, there's a lot of notes. That's a lot of work. And starting a solo in the middle of the neck on something that isn't even the root note of the solo I want to play on, that's a bit counterintuitive. So we know the box. We love the box. Let's embrace that. Now, if you haven't watched part 2 of this series, I highly recommend you go watch that before continuing, because there what we learned was that by making our home the root note, and in my examples I'm using the G minor scale, but it doesn't matter which scale you use, they all follow the same pattern. So by using the G minor note here, and there's another one here, these create little islands of comfort where that familiar box-shaped pattern occurs naturally. And in part 2, we took off from this familiar position here, we navigated all the way back, and we also navigated all the way back home. So we went down, we went up, and that was fine and dandy. But knowing that this pattern occurs everywhere on the fretboard, wouldn't it be convenient if we could just go from one place to the next fairly easily? Now, I think most of us know that the 12th fret marks the octave on our guitar fretboard. So everything that happens after 12 is essentially just a repetition of everything that happens after 0, after the nut. But if we're here on the 5th fret, we have to jump up to the 17th fret to get the octave, and that can be quite the jump. And believe it or not, there are pentatonic notes that occur naturally between that. So rather than focus on the 5 pentatonic notes in terms of a vertical plane that we look, from top to bottom with, let's look at the intervals of those notes on a single string. So from the root note all the way up to the minor third, we've got 3 frets. 3 semitones. Let's use the semitones. That'll be a better way to designate that. So from the root to the minor third, 3 semitones. Now from the minor third, and if you're not familiar with the minor third and the 4th and the 5th, don't worry about it. Those are just the names of the notes in relation to the scale. So from the minor third to the 4th, how many semitones is that? That's 2 semitones. So this note that we see here is exactly the same note that we have here. So root, 3 semitones from minor third, 2 more semitones is the 4th. Now from the 4th to the 5th is 2 semitones. We already know that relationship. So there's my 5th, root, minor third, 4th, 5th, over here on the 10th fret. And again, this is the G minor scale. Now between the 5th that we know here and that minor 7th on the other string, how many semitones of distance occur between those notes? We've got 3 semitones again. So 3 semitones, 2, 2, 3. And then from the minor 7th at this position, we've got 2 semitones back to our root. So from the minor 7th here, 2 semitones, and we are back at the root. And of course, this is the 15th fret, which is 15 minus 12, which is an octave, gives us our 3rd fret. We've covered the octave. Now I know what you're thinking. We're not going to start a solo by playing that. Why not? Well, you could, but that's not the point. Now, if we were able to find out the intervals on a single string all the way up to the octave, we need to be able to do the same thing back in the other direction. So you start at your G note, because we're in the G minor scale, 2 down is my minor 7th. 3 down is my 5. 2 down is the 4. 2 down is the minor 3rd. 3 down is the root. We're not done. There's another minor 7th here. Same thing. And obviously this pattern repeats itself on each and every string. So here we have on the 5th string the C note, which is our 4th note in the scale. So our 4-5 is there. Now how many semitones are between the 5 and the minor 7? 5 and minor 7, we had 3. So that same 3 semitone distance occurs there as well. So if we start adding up what this is buying us, is that we can start a little melody here where we're nice and comfortable on the 6th string, go to the minor 3rd, 4th, 5th, slide up 3 semitones, and here I am on another root. Root in a minor 7. So we were able to get here by going horizontally off the 5th string. Now if this is a root note here, of course we know there's a minor 3rd right there, and a 4 and a 5. If this is a 5 and that's a 4, that's got to be a minor 3rd because there's 2 frets. And a minor 3rd is 3 frets away from the root. And of course that's the root of our good old box that we're familiar with. So you see what we've done here is we've started a melody off here. We kind of navigated our way all the way to the root on the 10th fret. We noodled a bit in this position because that's the familiar box that we know here on this position. And that's, by the way, all we're doing is all of those pentatonic scale patterns. We just covered 3 or 4 of them. But we're using the relative note positions and we're calling out what we're doing. This is not fast. Don't expect to shred this anytime soon, but you're learning the notes on the fretboard, at least the positions in the G minor, and you're learning where your G's are. And then once we reached here, we went on the other string and we came back down to this other root where we could noodle here again if we wanted to, and then migrate our way back up. Now you'll notice that I'm steering clear of that B string. It's tuned a bit differently. The patterns change. I'll have another segment on that in a bit, but I encourage you to watch part 1. I'll put the links down in the description. Don't forget to watch that part 1. I explain in detail why that B string is tuned differently and how we can navigate around it. But I have some ideas on presenting it in a different fashion. But for now, just explore the pentatonic horizontally and use that part 2 to explore the relative notes around each of your root locations. And that will give you little islands of comfort that you can navigate to and from using the pentatonic.